I'm Amy Ballantyne. Welcome to Power to the People Pleasers and welcome my amazing guest, Jana.
Hi. Woo.
Jana here is a former mentor, well, still a mentor. I mean, I'm still being impacted by her work many years later, but we connected in 2019, and I'm so excited because she recently wrote an article about people pleasing, and I was like, my goodness, I need to get Jana into this podcast. Jana is the editor and chief of Best Holistic Life magazine, which I'm grateful to have had an article in a number of years ago. She's a brand strategist, NLP and RTT master, author, podcast host. My goodness, Jana, what don't you do?
Well, I'm not so much a people pleaser anymore. So,
Oh, that's good. Well, you know what? I'm going to dig in with my very first question I always ask is, have you ever been a people pleaser and what did that look like in your life, if yes?
yes, absolutely. I was a people pleaser. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until I hit my 50s that I realized I can just say no sometimes. And it doesn't mean I don't love them less or they don't, love me the same. So, yeah, I definitely have struggled with being a people pleaser. And for me, the struggle was perfection, right? If I was pleasing, that meant everything had to look and feel perfect. And Amy, it was exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. And would you say that it was showing up more in your work or home life or both? Or tell us about that.
I think it showed up mostly in my home life, but it also showed
Mhm.
up in work. And, it's kind of true when people say, like my mom was a people pleaser, and I used to make a joke that if somebody didn't like her, that was a person on her radar to do whatever she had to do to make that person like her because
Mm.
she had to be liked or felt like she was pleasing everyone and everyone was happy around her. But, it's not a possibility. And we're not responsible for other people, how they feel, and if they're happy.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I would say I certainly learned some of my people pleasing tendencies from my parents as well. I can remember that, and I think lots of people relate to that. And I'm interested because I know you're a mom as well. So, how have you used your learning of not being a people pleaser to support this um, discontinuation within your own children?
So, gosh, that's such a good question. I now have grandkids. So I have 7 grandkids, and 2 of them are getting ready to graduate high school this year.
What?
I know. So
How's that
I feel
possible?
like my kids, their age is 45 to 35, and I feel like they're harder for me to make a big impression on. But the littler ones, right? There's still hope for them in the world. And so I try to make them understand like that's sometimes okay to say no. And what is your gut telling you about, do you want to be a part of that? Do you want to do that? And why? And how are you going to show up for them? Are you going to show up where you're like, I said yes to everything. I remember, this is so funny with family and being a people pleaser, but I remember when we have one son, 3 girls, one son, and he's the youngest. And I was so excited because I could go to the ball games and all the fun stuff. And I remember when he was in Little League and they asked for the group mom, the mom
Mhm.
that took care of the snacks. And I literally stepped forward. I was so excited with my hand up, and I noticed all the other moms literally took a step back. And there I was standing alone. I'm like, why don't they want to do this? When I got into it, how hard it was. But my son loved it so much. He kept saying, Mom, you have to do it. You have to do it every year. But it was exhausting. And so I understood as a mom showing up for them and trying to make everyone around them happy was a struggle. Had I just said, you know what, I'm going to do it this one year, and then I'm going to give another mom a lovely opportunity to be it, because it wouldn't be fair for me to do it every single time. But I didn't. I just showed up every single time because I wanted to make my son happy.
No, you know what? I think that's important for me also to hear as well, Jana. I'm still in that stage. I've been the team manager for my son's hockey team for like 6 years at least. And I love the reframe. And I did give up being the team manager of my daughter's softball team uh, with that reframe of it allows other people to rise up. It allows other people to have the opportunity and the experience, and it doesn't have to always be done by us. So I appreciate that you also went through that as well.
By the way, what's the big deal if we're showing up in a supportive role? I think that's even better sometimes to say, yeah, like giving someone else the opportunity to have that leadership role. And then my new favorite thing to say is, how do I support you in that? Instead
Yeah.
of being a people pleaser and me seeing a situation and immediately my brain taking charge and trying to make it all right, now I step back with my children and my colleagues and I ask them, how can I support you moving forward? And they have to come up with the ideas of what they need for support, and me not just coming in, making it all function and them learning nothing. So now
Yeah.
my favorite thing is, how do I support you in that? And so they can tell me exactly what they need to move forward.
I love that. I'm going to use that. That's great. Jana, always teaching. And you're still teaching your children, by the way, even though they're a little bit older. You are. So we're here today talking about transforming people pleasing into empowering relationships. So I'd love, to throw this over to you. What is the number one thing that you would help individuals who are feeling still stuck? I call myself a recovering people pleaser. We're here empowering people who are in that kind of state. And what would be your top suggestion when we want to improve our relationships around maybe not people pleasing as often?
I think when we go to the core of people pleasing, it's just a natural human feeling for us to want to fit in, to be
Mm.
accepted into the group, the community. And we feel like sometimes to be, we have to be a pleaser to fit in. And what we really need to do is internalize that and look, why is it so important for me to show up like that? Why do I always have to say yes? What am I needing to fix in myself? And I think once we get really secure, again, I told you, I didn't even realize how it was really taking the joy out of my life until I was in my 50s. And it took a near death experience for me to figure out that life is so important and my relationships are so important. And if I'm being resentful because I'm the one saying yes, and then I'm resentful that I have all this extra work and I'm exhausted, what is that really like? What kind of quality of life is that? So my suggestion for you is to look within. Why is it so important for me? What am I lacking to not understand that I can be accepted no matter what? If I say yes, if I say no, if I ask, how can I support you? What does it matter to me that I am being accepted? What hole am I needing to fill? What do I need to personally work on? And I love that you said, Amy, that you're a recovering people pleaser. We all are. There are still certain people I cannot say no to. I just can't. We are all people pleasers, right? But it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to be in that little flow, right? And there are certain people we're just not going to say no to. But that doesn't mean that we can say no to some of the others, right? And we shouldn't have any shame in that. I feel like there's also shame and guilt when we do. And that's from, I'm a mom and I love my mom, but it is a lot of how we showed up with them. Like, especially I'm the oldest. The oldest was in charge of everything. I was the first one, to say, you're in charge of the kids while I'm gone. And you have to make sure this happens and this doesn't happen. And so like all that pressure's on you at a very young age. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I grew up to be a very powerful, strong woman because of that. And so I'm grateful for it, but I wished I also had the ability to not stress so much over it, right? Because now that I look back, it wasn't that big of a deal. So I think we carry that from things that were instilled in us in our age. If you notice, younger children aren't as big of people pleasers because they know somebody else is going to come in and fill the gap. Like, oh, if I don't do it, somebody will take care of it, right? It's usually a bigger sister or a parent when you're the younger one. So I think it depends also where you fall in the line of succession with your siblings. I used to tell my siblings all the time, I'm the top pecker here because I'm the oldest, right? And so I'm the one in charge. And I don't know why it was so important for me to be in charge, because I look back now and I'm like, it wasn't that big a deal they could have taken over. But there's a huge age gap between us, like 9 years, 17 years, and 20 years between me and my sisters. So when I say in charge, I mean like second mom in charge.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And that's a different experience for sure when I'm only 3 years difference from my sister. So I can see how that would make a difference. So share with me, you're doing a lot of things in your life. You have a lot of things going on, and you also coach individuals who I imagine have a lot of things going on. What are the things you are teaching them in terms of boundaries so that they can accomplish, like, you've got a long list of things that you do. I'm sure you don't you can't be a people pleaser if you want to accomplish all these things, right?
Right. Here's the thing. I think that we forget what our core values are. And when I
Mm,
ask some people, sometimes they really hesitate. If you're hesitating, these are core values. If you're hesitating when someone asks you what are your core values, you really need to sit down and have a real good conversation with yourself. What's really important to me? For me, again, in my 50s, I realized wealth was not as important to me as I thought it was those 50 years. For me, wealth is good health, beautiful relationships, showing up and being present, and having the ability to do that and continually do that on this beautiful earth. So for me, my core values completely shifted. So when I work with my clients, it's really about brand strategy, bringing their soul out. So what are those core values? Why are you serving the way you are? And what story brought you here? And we all have this beautiful story and journey. And some people don't share it because they're ashamed of it. I remember I didn't share that I was a single mom at 17 because, wait, that doesn't look so great, right? To be a single mom at 17. Yet I have a daughter now who's 45 and she has a PhD, and I'm responsible for that part of that. She did the work. But I mean, it had something to do with me showing up, being there, making the mistakes that I made, and loving her. And so I want people to understand what their core values are. When you figure out my core values are, my spirituality, maybe, or for me, it's always my health. Like I stop now. If I'm feeling like I need a break, I stop and I say no. When I first started building this business and I met you back in 2019, I was like the yes girl. Everything that came at me, I would say yes because I don't want to miss an opportunity while I'm building my business, right? Sometimes when I would say yes, it was like a beautiful sparkly object I would see, right? Off to the side. This is going to be fabulous, right? I'm so excited. And when I would move towards that sparkly object, my business suffered because that wasn't in alignment with my core values, where I was headed. So now when those beautiful sparkly things pop up, and believe me, as you grow, there's more and they're even bigger and brighter. I literally say, "Oh, that sounds amazing. Let me sit with that for a beat and just see if I'm able to fit that into what's happening." And by the way, you don't have to turn someone down ever. You can always say, that doesn't fit right now in this year. Could we circle back to that next year and see if that's possible for us to do together? So it doesn't have to be an absolute no. But if you really understand what your core values are, where you want to go in the journey, core values don't usually change too much. Like I know my health is never going to be not a priority for me. I know my family and relationships are never not going to be a priority for me. So those don't really change much. And if you keep focusing back to what your personal core values are and what your vision is with that moving forward, it's a lot easier to put other things on the back burner and not be so distracted by all the shiny, beautiful things that are going to pop up in your way.
yeah, I really like that. I really like how you said it doesn't have to be a no right now. I think that's a really important and powerful message to remind people of. It doesn't have to be a no right now. So many people are afraid of letting others down, right? Having to say no, and that's why they don't. They don't want to miss out on relationships, right? They don't want to hurt people's feelings. All of these backstories of why they're not saying no. But I like also how you said, just let me sit with that for a beat. Let me sit with that and see if it aligns with my values. I love that. These are my values. I put them right behind me on Zoom so that I could see them every single day and remind myself, am I living through these? Am I embracing these? And I'm sure that's part of our work that we did together many years ago. But I'd love to know, okay, so people are now saying they're getting clear on their values. They're maybe taking a moment to reflect on, does this align, when someone asks them? There's bright and shiny, fancy things coming at them. What else is important for those people pleasers to know, from your opinion, working with people?
Saying no isn't missing an opportunity. But by the
Mhm.
way, it could be a growth, a learning experience for the others. It could be a growth pattern for them to move forward. So don't deny them the opportunity to grow. Just like me saying, I'm going to be the team mom every year is not allowing someone else to step up and shine. So be a supportive role in that. So I think it's really important to understand that nobody disliked me when I stepped down. As a matter of fact, they're probably relieved because I'm so OCD about everything being on time and in order. And they were probably able to take a breath and be super excited about that. But it gives other people the opportunity. So showing up in a supporting role for others is so much sometimes better than showing up as the lead in. So saying no is not really saying no. It's not, it's just no now. And
Mhm.
the opportunity could be, I'm going to just talk about this really incredible client I have. Her name is Jen Drummond, and she just created a world record, or got a world record from Guinness Book for peaking the 7-second summits. And she has a book out called Break Proof, and it's her story and 7 strategies to this. She's a mom of 7. I couldn't do this if I was a mom of 1, but she has 7 kids, and they're not older kids. They're all ages from young to older. And she peaked 7-second summits, the first woman to ever do it on 7 continents. And 2 of those mountains, she had to go back and do a second time. And the
Wow.
story for that was when she had to say no and let everyone down, she had to call they were there. Sometimes they were halfway up, and she had to make a call, a decision to say no and disappoint everyone. Like, we were here, we put all this training in, we're almost there. But she had to say no because it wasn't safe for everyone, or something happened and they had to go back to help others. And so when she came back for the second climbs, because she did peak all 7, again, 2 of them she had to do twice. When she went back for the second climb, she realized why it wasn't at that moment she was supposed to make the climb. The universe had something else, and it was a connection with someone else, or an opportunity that wouldn't have been there before. And so now she's like, I understand that saying no when it's not right in my gut, or my core values keeping us safe on this climb, is sending us back. And I follow that instead of following being a people pleaser and putting everyone in harm's way. She would go back. So that's really stuck with me. What really stuck with me is the universe is telling you something when
Yes.
your gut is saying no. And it's because there's another opportunity for you somewhere else, somewhere you're supposed to be at just that moment. So now I just I'm a universe follower, right? When the universe presents something to me, I may not understand what it is at the time, or even agree or want to do it, but I listen and I move forward towards it. And it's been a beautiful experience for me.
I love that. I'm so glad that you shared that, actually, because I 100% agree with you that there's something else that is meant to happen. And I have a client who similarly was, saying, I really want to get pregnant, and then some things happen with work and her husband, and they're not. And I said, well, is it possible that right now is simply not what is in the plan for you, that there's something else, right? And this is, your attention is meant to be somewhere else. And I think that's a good reminder for people. And it's a really nice positive reframe to what may feel, like you said, she was, in one hand could be disappointing all those people who were ready to climb up the mountain, but at the on the other side, it's a positive reframe to see, like, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's some other focus I'm meant to have here. I appreciate that one. Thank you. So when you think about empowering relationships, so when you are coaching someone who is really struggling because they're constantly maybe pleasing one person, or individuals who are only pleasing their boss, for example, like that's the only priority that they have is their work, but they know they're letting, or they feel they're letting someone else or some other things down by doing that. What kind of coaching are you giving those people?
So I do have some clients that struggle with that on a regular basis. And at the end of the day, we again talk about their core values. Why is it so important that you make this person so happy? Like, what do you feel? We have FOMO, right? What are you feeling you're going to miss out on if we don't show up in that way? And by the way, sometimes I'm not telling you to not say yes. Sometimes saying yes is our journey, right? And when we show up, we should do a dang good job at it. We should show up as 100% who we are and like really do a great job. So there is a good side to people pleasing, right? We want to show up, we want to do good things, but we have to also know that we don't always have to show up. Sometimes we can tell that boss, you know what, that isn't going to work for me. Maybe there's someone else that can do a better job on that. Or how can I assist somebody else doing that? I don't have time to put this on my plate. And so you can say those no's and not feel like you're missing out. But I know for me, I really did have FOMO. I didn't want to miss out on anything. And I would always hear when people would talk about something, I always heard the fun part. So if they're like, would you like to do my bridal shower? Oh my gosh, a party, and we're going to theme it, and we're going to do this. And then it gets into the work and all the personalities that come in and somebody not showing up with that. And I'm like, I hate that I'm doing this. I hate it so much. And then I became resentful and not enjoyed the moment because I didn't really want, I only heard the fun part. I could have assisted in the fun part though, right? I could have said, oh my gosh, I know for if you're doing that theme, I know some great places to do this. And I could have been a really great support person for the person who really wanted to maybe do that. But it's a lot of work when you don't do it. And FOMO is a real thing for us. We don't want to miss out on anything. Like it's life. We want to be a part of what's going on. So I feel like you need to get your FOMO in check.
Yes.
And realize you can't be anywhere, everywhere at the same time, and that it's okay to disappoint somebody. It really is. We're human beings. And no matter how good we do it, there is no such thing as perfection. They should just have a big blank thing in Webster's dictionary with nothing, because there's no such thing as perfection.
Just skip that word in the dictionary. Yeah.
This journey is for us to keep growing and learning. And when we stop growing and learning, we stop existing. So I know when I do work with clients, they're like, am I ever going to get there? Gosh, let's hope not. Let's hope that each door we go through and we've learned something, two more are in front of us, right? That's part of the beautiful journey, as us expanding and growing and finding new challenges. And so don't worry about perfection. I was a huge perfectionist. I used to tell people I have OCD, the good kind. No one complains about being too clean, being on time, right? Who complains about that? But it was also exhausting and it zapped my joy. So I don't worry about perfection anymore. I know this is just a journey. It's okay if my hair is messy. It's okay if the house isn't perfect when someone comes over. This is, I got to tell you guys, I know a lot of women are going to relate to this. My mom was OCD and a people pleaser. And when someone was coming over, we spent hours working. I mean, scrubbing floorboards and the screens on the window. When they would get to the house, this is what my mom would say. I swear every single time, excuse the mess. We've been trying to tidy up, but the house is a disaster. And I'm like, what? We just cleaned for 12 hours, for 2 days we've been cleaning. But she would always say, I'm so sorry, the house is such a mess. And we'd all look at her like, are you insane?
Well, and I wonder where she learned that, right? Like this sounds like learned behavior. So a couple of things that you said really are hitting home for me. One that's coming up is, and this was a lesson that I had to learn for myself, but just because you can do the thing, right? You can plan the bridal shower doesn't mean that you have to or that you should. And I learned this the hard way of like, just because I was good at, and I was an event planner for some time, I was good at that job, didn't mean that that was what I was meant to keep doing, right? So being mindful that to filter, I can do the thing, but is this aligned, as you're saying, to my values? And the other thing that's coming up for me is this idea around people pleasing. And he said something that really hit home for me. People pleasing and boundaries. Well, I've lost it. I've lost the second one. But I really love what you're saying here today with these messages of helping people to be clear about what is important to them, be clear, and share that message with the people around them too. I think is important, right?
You know, Amy, one of the things I tell people all the time is you're an influencer, whether you believe it or not.
Mm.
People, you were just talking about learned behaviors. People are watching you all the time. So I'm looking at your board behind you: family, health, contribution, and legacy. And part of our legacy is the way we go through life, right? And those who are viewing us, my grandkids, they watch me. I don't realize it. And then I see them say or do something like, ooh, they got that from me. Or, ooh, they got that from me. So how do you want that ooh to be, you know? So what you do when you say no, or, oh, wow, I would love to be a part of that, but I'm not going to be able to. Is there anything I could do to support you in it, though? And take a smaller role and a step back. So you're still part of it, but you're stepping back a little and not being the lead on it, is a really powerful thing. And when people see you do that, they're like, oh my gosh, I love her. I've been watching her forever. I can do that too. So remember, people are always watching you. And so the way you behave and the way you show up and saying no from time to time because it's not fitting, and it's going to take a while. Believe me, this is something that, like you said, recovering. You're going to be
Recovering
the process all the time. Like, and you'll be thinking in the car ride, doing all the chores that you signed up for. What was I thinking? Why did I do this? If you're thinking that in your car while you're running around like a chicken with their head cut off, I want you to step back into those core values and be like, is this in alignment with what I want? Is there a way I could have shown up in a supportive role instead of taking all of this on? Like maybe do one of their errands instead of saying, yeah, I got you, I'll do it all. So you don't have to do it all to be perfect, because there's no such thing. But showing up and being supportive, I'd rather show up and be supportive than be exhausted and resentful at the end because I said yes to everything.
Yes, yes. Being supportive. Being supportive is so key. And I wanted to end with this concept you were mentioning, disappointing people. And I think it's interesting. I'd love to know your take as we wrap this conversation up. One of the things that I've noticed is that people are really afraid, and I'm generalizing, many people are afraid to disappoint others, but put less time into thinking about disappointing themselves. And that's what I see happen so often when we're looking at this yes, no kind of scenario. What do you think about this?
I think it's a lot like, I'm just going to use social media for an example. When we post something, we see all the hearts, right? And we get the thumbs up. And then one person says, oh my gosh, that is so stupid. I can't stand your stuff. And we completely focus in on that one statement. I had a client who was ready to shut down all her social media. And I'm like, why? She goes, somebody said it, like a troll said this to me. I said, let me see. And I looked, and there was literally 30 or 40. Oh my gosh, this really changed my life. Thank you for sharing. But she could not stop focusing on the one negative thing, which was literally probably something going on in that person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And she just couldn't stop focusing on it. So I've shut off all my likes, all of my comments. You know what that did for me? I did it a year ago just to prove a point. And what it did for me is it opened up conversations in my DM. So instead of a flaming thumbs up or something or hearts, they would reach out and they say, Jana, I really enjoyed this article. Thank you so much. It really helped. And I shared it with my daughter, or I shared it with a friend. And we had real conversations. And I have to tell you guys, if you're evaluating your personal worth by the way people are seeing you, are treating you, are comments that are coming out, usually that's all going on in their backyard. It's their baggage. So if you're doing something that makes you feel good, you feel really good about it, you put a post out there, you do something for a friend, keep that good feeling, because all that really matters at the end of the day is how you feel about yourself. That is the only opinion that matters.
Yes, yes, yes. And building that relationship with yourself, Jana. I love this conversation, and I'm so grateful that you were able to join me here today. For people who want to connect with you, janashort.com, on Instagram, Jana Short Official, and Best Holistic Life on Instagram and LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being here today, Jana. It was such a pleasure to see you.
I loved it. Thank you, Amy.
And for all of our listeners, I'm so grateful for you tuning into another episode of Power to the People Pleasers. Please stay tuned for our next episode coming soon. Have a great day.